fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. Your eyes do not deceive you. We are at the legendary Autodromo Nazionale Monza for round 5 of the Geodesic Omologato Championship. I've loved the rounds so far of this American sports car series. We've seen some great shows of dominance from two drivers in particular, Marcus Deck and Dakota Fripp, but Marcus Deck absent from the previous round at Indianapolis, which allowed Graham Sanders to take victory there in the prototype class. But in the GT class, it seems like no one can stop the Fripp tide in the Audi. I'm Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box is David Haynes, as usual. David, time for the 5th round of this series. It doesn't seem like there's much stopping Marcus Deck and Dakota Fripp at the moment, but now, here at Monza, we've got opportunity for some mix-ups because there's plenty of drafting opportunities down these historic long straights.
Yeah, there certainly is a lot of drafting at Monza. I'm never disappointed to see it on the schedule. There is 2 drivers from Full Send Racing making use of that slipstream in their qualifying right now. Last race's winner, Spencer Kostovich. I think this is one of those races where having a teammate in the battle, in the fray, is really going to help him out because of the way you race in a pack here at Monza, because of the way they're all going to be targeting their fuel numbers as well. It's not just a high-speed track, it's also a high fuel consumption track as well. So that, I think, is going to see a lot of teammates trying to work together today.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. These long straights mainly allows you to use a ton more fuel than you do at other circuits, but those heavy braking zones might provide a bit of an opportunity for some fuel saving if you can stay in the draft, shorten your pit stop, and get yourself going again. Once again, we're expecting that it's going to be a 2-stop-up for the prototypes and a 1-stop-up for the GTs. Let's have a look at Monza then. This fantastic Italian venue. It's been around since 1922. It was only the 3rd ever permanent racetrack built in history. It's only predated by Brooklands and Indianapolis. So, up in the northern area of Italy, in the Monza and Brianza region, it's in the middle of a public park, is Monza. Been there ever since, and it's gone through quite a few changes over the years, but the basic layout of the circuit remains the same. You've got the heavy braking zone to the chicane of 1 and 2 at Rettifilo, then Curva Grande, a curved acceleration zone, another overtaking opportunity at the Della Roggia chicane. You have to make it through the Lesmos before you get to Ascari, another heavy braking zone there, and then the fast sweeping Parabolica to end the lap. Certainly a great Grand Prix circuit and a fantastic sports car venue as well.
Great place to be if you're Pierre Gasly as well.
Yes.
Great place to be if you're us and our drivers. Yeah, definitely looking at those 2 chicanes as a big potential overtaking opportunity, but also the first half of the lap, you can flow it a little bit. You can lift and coast into the Lesmos, into the 2 chicanes, and that can save you a bit of fuel. If that's what you're going to have to do, we'll see.
We'll see indeed. Qualifying is now over, so the last of our GT runners will be coming across the line very shortly into the pits. Tristan Iglesias finishing his lap, and interestingly, we've had a bit of a shake-up in GT qualifying because Dakota Fripp is starting from the back. He hasn't set a time in qualifying. That means Johan Boysen is on pole in his McLaren, and Maxime Detilly making it 2 McLarens in the top 3 in GT. That is a good run there. Incidentally, We'll also take a look at the championship standings as the drivers go into their briefing at the ending of the qualifying session. We've got about 10 minutes wherein the drivers go over what's expected of them in the race. These are the prototype standings, with Graham Sanders leading the championship, having taken that victory at Indianapolis over Marcus Deck, who was absent last round. But Deck, of course, with the most wins of anyone. We're expecting that he will challenge Graham Sanders again for that championship lead soon. Adam Crane, unfortunately, not taking part in this series anymore, but remains third, having taken the win at Silverstone. Andrew Berry in 4th place, Hayden Gober in 5th. It's been a pretty patchy run for the prototype class. There's only 6 of them here today at Monza, but I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders face off here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting on the field. It'll be interesting on slipstreaming for all of our prototypes as well. And they're just good to see around the track here. I love the way they get through Ascari, for example. Quite a lot of speed on them.
Indeed. And the GT standings, it's all about Dakota Fripp. But as we've just said, it seems that Dakota Fripp is not taken to the front of the grid this time here at Monza. We don't know if he's going to take to the grid at all. So drivers like Spencer Kostovich, who unfortunately is not here today either, not going to be able to get a leg up there. But Tristan Iglesias is certainly going to get himself a bit closer to that top 2 and the championship lead here today.
Certainly going to be very, very interesting with who's present, who isn't, and the championship standings.
And that concludes our pre-look at the race. I think we should get in on the Gentlemen's Championship standings as well for incidents. The less incidents you get, the less points you have, and so the further up the standings you are in the Gentlemen's Championship. And Dakota Fripp has been pretty much flawless so far. Only 5 incident points across the entire season. Corey McLemore might be able to get a bit closer to Dakota Fripp there, having raced here at Monza, but we will see.
Absolutely, Corey McLemore got a lot closer last round at Indianapolis, so I think that one is still anyone's game depending on what happens.
Yes, indeed. Going to be anyone's game for sure. Interested to see what the likes of Aaron Ackles can do, because Aaron's starting down in 17th overall. He's probably going to have quite the draft train to start things off. But let's take a look then at the prototype lap for pole. Marcus Deck in the Abruzzi Esports machine coming down through Parabolica. You have to maximize the exit here and use just enough of that green tarmac on the left-hand side. Otherwise, you'll get the off-track 1X as he starts the lap. Very long run down into turns 1 and 2 here at Rettifilo, braking at about the 125-meter marker. Try and use as much of the curb as you can without getting an off-track or a slowdown, and extend the exit as much as possible. Coming through Curva Grande. This used to be quite a fearsome corner when the chicanes weren't here back in the day, but now it's just a way of getting around to the Variante della Roggia chicane. You can use quite a bit of the curb here, but the Dallara P217 doesn't like big curbs. You want to try and stay off them there. Through the Lesmos, slightly banked into Lesmo 1, tightens up ever so slightly on the exit. You used to be able to use a lot of that AstroTurf on the exit of these corners, but iRacing tightened up their track limits recently. So now you have to be very careful about how wide you go off of those corners. Next up, Ascari. You see Deck was having to go to driver's left to pass another car, I believe. Through the very fast Ascari, a little bit of oversteer right in the middle of the corner, and you can use all the AstroTurf on the exit there, so nicely extended from Marcus Deck. He seems quite confident in the abilities of this car, and considering that he's taken pole by almost 6/10, I think that confidence is well assured. Out of Parabolica for the final time, and that's going to be pole position.
I love the opening part of the lap where he steams down into the opening segment of corners in 6th gear, brakes, it brings it all the way back down to 1st, to accelerate out of that corner around Curva Grande, all the way up into 6th gear, just to get to the next chicane and get it all the way back down to 1st again. He paid for 6 gears. He is going to use all of them on that qualifying lap and in the race.
Yes, indeed. And before we go racing, we'll take a look at the GT class pole position as well, because we finally have a different car on pole position in GT. Johan Boysen, who we saw have to start from the rear of the field at, I believe, the Nürburgring for an incident, still managed to work his way onto the podium in certain rounds last season, and he's touching on it here today as well, with Tristan Iglesias and Maxime de Tilly just behind him. That McLaren seems to really like the straight line speed around here.
Always been one of its strong points for sure. Love that. Love that little slow-mo.
That's great.
Shows you where Deck found some of the speed. Just glazing right over that sausage curb at the exit of Ascari here to open up his run onto the back straight. This is Boysen's pole lap now.
It is, and of course Boysen has switched to the BMW M4 this season, along with the rest of Team Tortuga. He's missing his McLaren a bit, but that's interesting, seeing what he's done there, going wide through Parabolica to start the lap, probably believing that it's going to give him a little bit of an extra run out of the corner, getting on the throttle earlier with a slightly wider line, but I haven't really seen anyone do that before, David.
Yeah, it was interesting. It wasn't quite what I expect if you're setting up out of Parabolica, but I guess it still works. And if you get the rest of the lap right, really, whether the run out of Parabolica is absolutely perfect or not, it's going to matter. A 10th down into turn 1, and everything else very strong. You can tell it's very tall gears for the BMW. It's not even going to get to 6th gear there. Wow.
Wow, yeah. The top gears in this car, obviously they're based on the road version of the BMW M4 as well. But yeah, I'm surprised there that he's only going up to 5th on the run to Curva Grande. Let's see if he manages to snatch 6th on the run up to Ascari then. Obviously getting a good amount of torque out of the Lesmo corners there, right in the middle of the rev range in 3rd gear. But no, not getting into 6th on the run up to Ascari. So it seems like 6th gear is only going to be a thing down the front stretch or in the draft here.
Very strategic shift into 4th gear there across the curb as well. It might have been considered a little bit short. Stabilizes the car as he then picks up the throttle over the curbs and then across the AstroTurf. You need the car to be stable. Not easy, but he managed it.
Did indeed. And then staying very tight out of Parabolica to shorten the run to the start-finish line. And I think that might be just what gave him that pole position, because Boysen only took pole position from Tristan Iglesias by 11 thousandths of a second. Very close there between the BMW and the Lamborghini.
Very, very competitive all across GT3. It's always the case, whatever the championship is, I think. So GT3 definitely interesting to watch at Monza, because they're even more susceptible to the slipstreaming and the draft battles.
Yeah, they certainly are. Here we go. Moving at about the speed of a tortoise in this slow motion. And this is going to be about the point where we saw him short shift into 4th gear. And that curb there, at the final corner of Ascari, it's going to be one of the interesting points of the lap. It can very easily unsettle the car, and you're going to see the prototypes try to avoid it as much as possible, but the GTs can clatter it just a little bit. that speed bump on the inside of the corner. Boyson using it there as his apex. And there we go. Nice smooth transition. Before we go to the starting grid then for this 5th round of the Geodesic Omologato Championship, here's a quick word from our series sponsor, Omologato.
There's a story on this island. History lives here. If you listen closely, you can still hear the echo of a Dino, smell the petrol of a Carrera, feel the grace of an LP. In those days, lives were lost and fortunes were won in the blink of an eye. It's no longer that simple in today's world. But on an island, it's almost as if time stands still. Honoring the past by racing into the future. Motorsport, it's in our DNA.
This round of the Geodesic Omologato Championship, we take a look at the Monza Black chronograph. It's a fantastic looking timepiece here, all black, finished with sapphire glass. There's clear dials and a stopwatch function as well. Only 500 of these are ever going to be made worldwide. So if you're interested in picking one of these up, make sure to go to omologatowatches.com. And if you use the code SPEED2021 at checkout, you'll receive a free silicone wristband along with your watch. Yeah, you know what, David? That watch really does evoke the Autodromo Nazionale Monza for me. It's a beautiful looking timepiece, a little bit of a retro touch as well.
Yeah, I love there's a couple tracks that Omologato are officially licensed, partnered up with. Got the official Monza watches and the official Watkins Glen timepieces as well. So we had to go there in this season, in this championship. They are partnered up to be the official timepiece of some of the world's greatest and best known sports car racing tracks as well, which is awesome.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how this event turns out, because here is the starting grid. Of course, only 6 prototypes, but it's sure to be hotly contested. For the podium, Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders are going to line up on the front, with Jack Anderek and Hayden Gober 3rd and 4th. Andrew Berry and Jason Gotter round out our prototype field here tonight. Action Sim Sport and Genesis Sim Sport. Johan Boyson has claimed pole in the GT class. He'll start alongside Tristan Iglesias, and the top 4 completed by Maxime Detilly in the Genesis McLaren and John Botifer in the Geodesic Racing Lamborghini.
And the rest of the GT field looks like this, with Corey McLemore starting out of 5th, looking to make good on that Gentleman's Championship. He wants a clean race, with Bo Rigger in 6th, then Carter Hutchison, Zach Plummer, Anthony Rossimano, John Sedlak, Aaron Ackles, Nick McLaughlin, Orson Mireles, Mike Imade in one of the Lamborghinis, I do believe, and then David Browning, and no qualifying time for Dakota Fripp or Jordan Fisher. And I'm not sure I'm seeing Dakota Fripp on the grid either.
Yeah, you're right. Dakota Fripp is not on the grid. So David Browning is the last starting GT car. So that's going to be very concerning there for Dakota Fripp's championship. Hopefully he's able to get back in there and do his best to secure it in the final couple of rounds. But either way, we're about to have a race go on here. The prototypes have already pulled ahead of our GT class, and Johan Boyson's going to lead those guys away. At a Parabolica, Marcus Deck doing a little practice start in his prototype just behind the safety car. Be interesting to see when he decides to go. There is no starting zone for this round once again, so the drivers have the opportunity to go whenever they like as soon as the pace car comes into the pits. So then, just one more corner to go. Final checks Do we have the fuel in the car? Are our tyres up to temperature? Probably not as much as they'd like, but they're certainly going to get up to temperature once the racing gets off to a good start. In comes the safety car at the front of our prototype field, and Marcus Deck will lead them away here, starting just before the start-finish line, waiting for the iRacing green flag. And there we go, the green flag flies and we are racing, passing the second start line as our GT class gets off to a start just behind our prototypes. Deck is going to lead the way into turn 1, and Sanders has to yield ultimately. Jack Anderek, though, had to go slightly wide there for Andrew Berry, and that sent him into Hayden Gober as our GT class into turn 1. Tristan Iglesias grabbing the lead from Johan Boysen.
Big move from the Lamborghinis then to get into the lead. Tristan Iglesias managing to get around Johan Boysen in what was a very, very level start in all of the GTs. It's not done yet, though, as we look at third. Maxime Detilly is under a bit of pressure here.
Certainly is. He's got John Botifer right on the back of him as there's a couple of prototypes that have come together there at Della Roggia. Looks like Jason Goddard and Andrew Berry. Berry's just going to get going there ahead of the GT class, who have now formed into single file, coming down into the Lesmos. And looks to me like Maxime Detilly has shaken off John Botifer for the time being. He's back there with his Geodesic teammate, Bo Rigger, and Corey McLemore is starting to pile on the pressure for those guys. There's a gap a bit further back then to Zach Plummer, Carter Hutchison, and John Sedlak as the rest of the GT field goes on through. For the prototype lead, it looks like Marcus Deck has already pulled a nice gap there on Graham Sanders, about half a second already. So now it's up to Graham to stay within the draft range of our championship leader.
Sure is, and you can see he's just going to follow Marcus Deck wherever he goes. A lot of clean track in front of these guys for the next couple laps, but eventually later in the race, that won't be true. So right now, if you're Sanders, you've got to keep it clean. You can't make any mistakes. You just got to stay with Deck, who has a slowdown.
Yeah.
Giving this up.
Oh, no. Well, there you go. That's what happens here at Monza. It's notorious for those brutal slowdown penalties coming into these chicanes. Up in the GT field, though, Tristan Iglesias has pulled a bit of a gap here on Johan Boysen, almost overshoots the first chicane, but manages to keep a good turn of pace going. But now Johan Boysen, it seems, is starting to fall back into the pack for second on back. Maxime Detilly and John Botifer still piling it on.
Sure, we'll see how it goes and who in the pack here might be saving a little bit of fuel. It was kind of critical at Indianapolis. Almost everyone ending up on a two-stop strategy. Is that more slowdowns from some of these Geodesic guys?
Yeah, both Geodesic cars there having to serve slowdowns out of Della Roggia. Yeah, it's I think that comes off the left-hander in that chicane. You can, oh my God, Botifer and Rigger are still having to clear them. They're going to lose a ton of positions out of this as Marcus Deck is now back on the back of Graham Sanders. Yeah, that left-hander in the Della Roggia chicane is one of the problem points of the lap, because you can take quite a bit of it, but just a millimeter too far and you'll be hit with that slowdown penalty. So that's what's happened to Botifer and Rigger. Oh my goodness, that's almost a bump draft there down the front straight for Marcus Deck on Graham Sanders.
It's like there's definitely two cars there, I think. Yeah, it was close. And it shows at the moment, I don't think Marcus Deck is interested in getting that lead back just yet. We'll see. Or maybe he is.
Here we go. Side by side, Graham Sanders lifts off early and Marcus Deck goes on through into Della Roggia. Sanders having to back out slightly there because Deck almost overshot the chicane. As for the GT lead, it seems, well, P4 side by side. And that's looking very interesting down into the chicane. It's Carter Hutchison for 5th place that's just gone on there. And Carter's got a good turn of speed here. He's got a bit of a gap up to Corey McLemore, but having made his way past Zach Plummer there.
when I was watching
gradually making
qualifying,
up positions.
I think Carter Hutchison might have compromised his qualifying a little bit. I think he spent most of the session trying to tow around his teammate Tristan Iglesias. So now we're seeing Hutchison make a couple more moves, get a bit further up the pack there. Maybe qualifying wasn't fully representative.
Yes, indeed. Well, Hutchison is definitely making use of the draft there. He's got a bit of a gap ahead there to Corey McLemore, but I think he'll waste no time in trying to make that up. Our prototype leaders, by the way, Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders, the gap is now back out to about half a second between these two. And Marcus Deck, having already set the fastest lap on that last lap when he overtook Graham Sanders, certainly looking like he's going to try and consolidate this lead, but Sanders wants to stick with him here. It's his only chance of winning. If he is able to save a bit of fuel here in the draft, stay close to Marcus Deck, and hopefully jump him in the pits. To our Omologato replay then, we're going to take a look at what happened to Andrew Berry at the start of the race. Not sure how Jason Gotter was involved in this, and whoa. Looks like Berry just spun by himself. Gotter was completely blameless there, but I think good avoidance from Jason Gotter. You see a car spin in front of you at the chicane, it can take quite a bit of effort to back off enough.
Yeah, late lock of the brakes, I think, there. And then Goddard had no one behind him as well, though, so he could just park, wait for the C's to part, and then move forward into fifth.
Indeed he could. Draft time once again here for Graham Sanders, but there you go. You see he lifts off just before the braking zone. He wants to stay behind Marcus Deck here. But the lap time, still faster for Marcus Deck. 1 minute 36.8, and Graham Sanders has not been able to set an official lap time yet, I think because he's getting off tracks every so often.
Yeah, been 4 laps now.
I mean, Sanders was 0.2 faster than Deck on that last lap on time alone, but the lap time hasn't been officially registered.
Yeah, I see that. And probably the Lesmos here. You can push a little wide there, for example, and that's one of the places that be an off track. Certainly, same thing would happen if you picked up a slowdown on your lap, but I don't remember Sanders getting one.
Yeah, I don't either. We saw hints of a move for Graham Sanders as all. That's Maxime Detilly, I think, running wide there and letting the other Team Tortuga BMW by Corey McLemore, but the straight line speed of the McLaren coming into play through Curva Grande and defended there for Maxime. We should highlight as well that it's a maximum of 15 incidents before you get a drive-through penalty. That's another one of the things in play here today. The admins have set it up so that you go over a certain amount of incidents as a drive-through penalty, but I'm not too sure on how many requires to get disqualified. I don't even know if it's a thing in the rules, but the drivers are going to have to be very careful not to rack up too many incidents here, which is very easy to do in the chicanes.
I've been watching the timing, and while there's been a little bit of games between our prototype leaders, Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders, Jack Anderek was fastest the last lap. So he was still just lurking in the background of the top two. When Deck and Sanders put down laps in the 36s, it seems like they pull away from Anderek. But if they play games, and they have been playing a little bit of games, it definitely keeps Jack Anderek. Because otherwise, on his lonesome in third, just with your visibility of the lead.
Yeah, it's almost in touch there for Jack Anderek as Maxime Detilly might be lining up a move on Johan Boysen here. staying in the draft, coming down the front straight, pulls out to go for the move. How late is he on the brakes? Johan Boysen is a little bit later, but runs wide and lets Titilli go. Around the outside in the second part of Retafilo, Titilli puts down the power and around he goes. So unfortunately for Johan Boysen, that's going to be 2 positions lost. He's had to give up the position there to Macklemore.
Yeah, thought the nose was in front, and then it just seemed to push a little deep on the way in, and Titilli swooped through to grab second. It's all letting Tristan Iglesias build a little bit of a lead in GT, which is well, I guess that's what he wants.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what's going on there for our Team Tortuga drivers. Hearing that David Browning has retired, or at least towed back to the pits, and we might get an idea as to what happened to him here. Coming down into turn 1, and oh, that is quite big. Goodness me. On his roof, and he had no choice but to get a tow there from race control. I'll try and confirm the identity of the driver in question who tipped him over there, but David Browning.
Mike Imade, I think.
Yeah, looks like it.
Quasar Lamborghini, was it not?
Indeed, it was Mike Imade. So we'll see if race control have a word to say on that one, but they've already granted the tow to David Browning. He is down in the pits as, oh, here we go again. Is that Macklemore going for the move there on Titilli as our prototype leaders are starting to come up on our GT field. They've just passed Mike Imade, so they're going to be coming up on these guys pretty soon, and that's going to really mix it up.
Yeah, for sure, because we've still got, as you can see, this is, you're trained for second in GT, all the way through to 7th or 8th, about that. And they've been battling back and forth a little bit, and they're all very much in a line. There's not anywhere for a prototype car to slot into this. When they catch it, it's Boysen rolling out of the throttle and letting all of that train through.
Yeah, slow down for Boysen as well. There's a spinner down at Della Roggia, Anthony Rossamano, who we've seen get some good results here in this series in the past. Unfortunately, doesn't look like it's going to work out for him today. Get a quick Omologato replay then, see what happened to him. Had one of the Genesis BMWs for close company behind. Was it rear-end contact? Oh, it's difficult to see. The War Turtle, car of Orson Mireles might have just been a slight, ever so slight tap. I'll have a look on board here, see if contact was indeed made, and bam, there we go. So just tipping him around there at Della Roggia. It's a difficult chicane to get through. It can be at times a bit quicker than it looks.
There's so many cars where you're like, is it first gear? Is it second gear? The prototype is one of them. A bunch of the GTE cars, it's, is it first gear? Is it second gear? It's a little in between there. Sometimes you get the line just right and you're like, oh, that was actually pretty quick. It's actually pretty quick through there. Not quite as tight as the first chicane, but other times it does feel quite slow, especially if your car's not working on the bumps.
Well, this 4-car pack for second back in GT has looked quite nice into the first couple turns, but they're going to get some company here from the leaders. Look at how much curb the GT cars use and how much the prototypes avoid it. Graham Sanders is going to get through on Zach Plummer into Lesmo, so no cars between him and Deck, but this is going to be a bit tight. Can Deck get through in time? No, he can't get past Carter Hutchison there. And confirming from race control that incident we saw for Orson Mireles and Anthony Rossamano, Mireles is under investigation for causing a collision, so we'll bring you that news when it eventuates. Graham Sanders has been held up there into Ascari, which has allowed Marcus Deck to scamper away.
Not quite what Sanders wants. That's the one part of the track that's not great for the traffic here. The rest of it, there's a lot of long straights. It's really not that bad compared to some tighter and twistier and narrower tracks. But Ascari there, if you're not ahead of the GT car before the first apex, you got to wait the whole way through the complex of 3 corners it functionally is there. And that's got Sanders 1 3/4 seconds off the lead now.
Quite a bit of time lost, so Sanders is going to have to push hard to get back onto the back of Marcus Deck, because there's no traffic up until David Browning, who's just coming into the first Lesmo now. So then, that battle for second in GT, headed up by Corey McLemore. He's got Maxime Detilly behind him. Carter Hutchison and John Botifer in hot pursuit as well in the Lamborghinis. Who's going to come out on top here? Remember, they will have to come in for a single pit stop here. The GT cars generally last about an hour and 10 minutes on most tracks. Here, thanks to the longer straights and increased fuel consumption, we're expecting that the stints might only be about an hour, if that. So I reckon we'll probably see them start to come in around the 45 to 50 minute mark.
I'm still thinking it could be 2 stops for the GTs, given the fuel restriction, knowing that on the weekend at Bathurst, they were GT cars, GT3s at a track like Bathurst were getting an hour 3, an hour 4 minutes. And then you try to take about 60% of that.
Yes, because
that's short of 40. That's short of 40 minutes.
Yes, okay. I'm going to walk myself back there. For some reason, I keep forgetting about the fuel tank restriction in this series, but it really does spice things up, does this fuel tank restriction. Certainly opens up the strategy in the GT class and has given us some exciting races, certainly for second on back with the dominance that Dakota Fripp has shown in the first part of the season. Through goes the Genesis prototype of Jason Goddard, and that has split then our second, third, fourth, and fifth battle. Pushed Hutchison and Botifer back into the clutches of Zach Plummer as Andrew Berry makes his way on by. The gap between our prototype leaders staying at around 1.9 seconds, as there is news from race control about Orson Mireles. He has been given a 10-second post-race penalty for his collision with Anthony Rossimano.
I mean, there wasn't a whole lot in it, really, but that did seem from all angles that Mireles braked a little bit late and therefore hit Rossimano and therefore sent Rossimano around. So, you know, it didn't seem ridiculously egregious or with any real ill intent, but it was sloppy and caused a collision. So I think the sentence sort of fits the crime on that one.
And also hearing that there's no further action for the incident between Mike Imade and David Browning. They considered that one a racing incident. So then, hearing from our director that Detilly has got damage. Front left-hand wheel. Oh yes, you can see that it's sticking out just a tiny bit there. So that will be affecting his straight line speed a little bit. He might be spending a couple seconds longer in the pits.
Very possible. Oh, there we go.
No. There we go indeed. Slow down for Corey McLemore on the exit of the first chicane, and looks like he got that at the first apex. Just took a bit too much curb, but he stayed with... Oh no! That's Jack Anderek in the Geodesic number 21 prototype. He was running third, but has gone for a bit of a loop. He's given up third place to Hayden Gober now. Let's see what happened to him. This was in the Lesmo corners. He seems all right through Lesmo 1. Lesmo 2 is, oh yeah, just caught the grass on entry, almost gathered it up, but oh no. Front end into the wall. Unfortunately, that is going to result in a tiny bit of damage for him. David, that's what happens when you just catch the grass a little too much on the entry to that corner.
Right, he was scoring full Tokyo Drift points right up until about there. The entry, great. The apex, fantastic. Just lost it on the exit. That's a easy little mistake. Just a little bit of the grass there, and there wasn't a whole lot in the spin, but that tap on the wall, I worry about.
Yeah, I worry too. It's even the slightest damage to your aero around here can cost you tenths, possibly seconds, as Macklemore now in the draft of Maxime de Tilly. Big overrun there for the BMW. But de Tilly a little bit later on the brakes coming into the first turn, almost defending the lead here. He's going to get the run done on the exit as well. This is going to bring John Botifer right into it. A 3-car battle now for second place in GT. I'm really liking this.
Not more than 3. Here's another look as de Tilly tries to dissuade him, and big move from Botifer.
Yeah, but de Tilly, again, confident on the brakes, able to defend there. Botifer making sure he wants this podium. Macklemore, I think, putting on a really good defensive drive over the last few laps, but just been overcome a little bit in the first half of this lap. Looks like he's wasting no time in trying to get away from Carter Hutchison, though. And Carter Hutchison, got to say that he's continued to come on strong in this race. He'll almost be challenging for those podium positions, I think, when the pit stop cycle comes around. De Tilly, though, still leading the way out of Ascari. Botifer is well within the draft, and I'll have a look at the difference in straight line speed between the Lamborghini and the McLaren with de Tilly's ever so slight damage. I don't know if de Tilly's actually let him by on purpose there to get the draft on the front straight. Either way, oh no. Corey Macklemore running a little bit wide out of Parabolica. That's going to open the door to a move here from Carter Hutchison, who's going to move from 5th to 4th. As de Tilly hints at a move here on John Botifer coming into the chicane. Let's see how brave they are on the brakes.
You've got 2 races to watch as there's almost contact deeper in the train. This is going to go side by side here, and I think Botifer just runs de Tilly out of room.
Does indeed, just slots on ahead, but de Tilly right to the inside of Curva Grande. Getting good traction on the exit of these chicanes, wanting to go for the move. Botifer is not going to let him through this time, and de Tilly not going to go for the move to the inside. They know that they're bringing all of these drivers behind them into contention for this position as well, so they don't want to waste too much time going side by side.
Anyone's game when they're this close, this far into the race. You could be Zach Plummer or Bo Rigger or Johan Boyson at the back of this train, saving a bit of fuel, and end up looking very, very clever when the first round of pit stops happens in this class. The Botifer and de Tilly and Macklemore and Hutchins battling, and the other guys are just right on the back of this as well.
Yeah, and you would have heard there on our feed just how early Johan Boyson was lifting and how much he was using the clutch in the braking zones. Let's see into Parabolica what he does. Top of 5th gear. Wow. Complete drop of revs there. That shows you how hard he's working to save fuel. It's certainly going to help him when the pit stop cycle comes around. Maxime de Tilly and Corey Macklemore have lost touch with John Botifer, as we have our first prototype in the pits. That's Andrew Berry going up, and he's going to come out just behind this GT pack. But at the front of it, no big change of position. De Tilly, though, has fallen behind Corey Macklemore.
What I hate about those BMW onboards is you can see there's the outline of the dash and the console from the road car, and then there's the racing Bosch unit that doesn't sit in the middle where the road car gauges are.
Yeah, it is a little bit off center, isn't it? As we ride on board with one of the Tortugas. Yeah, just a little. I'm sure that's
two identical units, and one of them does the rear camera, and the other one does all the other stuff. But there's no pricing for them on the Bosch website, by the way. You need to know. Then you need to know unit.
Right.
Unit in the Audi, which we can't look at because Dakota Fripp's not on track.
Yes, and Dakota Fripp, the only Audi that has taken part in the majority of races this season. But that was a bit of a scary view from the back of Corey McLemore, because obviously Maxime de Tilly, running the livery that he is, he's given the McLaren a big old Cheshire Cat grin, which is certainly ominous in the rearview mirror.
Even scarier, he's got some of the elements from the flag of Quebec on each side. I don't call that. It's like a pike or a herald something.
The floret.
What? That's the word. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Good work.
Goodness me. Oh, Maxime's going to come after you if he hears you talking like that. Goodness me. Have a look at the Ferrari.
Travel to get to me.
Yes, indeed he does. There's a move further back there. Bo Rigger making his way past Zach Plummer. And Johan Boyson right at the back of this train, continuing to put on the massive fuel save. But Bo Rigger thinking, now I can move forward a bit. Unfortunately, he's got a big gap to those cars up ahead. Look at that. There's the Ferrari. So now, can Bo Rigger jet up to the back of this battle between Hutchison, de Tilly and McLemore before the pit stops come around? I know that Boyson,
when you were Johan Boyson, 2 seconds behind second place, but now Botifa's getting away. There's a rift forming between Hutchison and Rigger. All of a sudden, Johan Boyson is more like 5-6 seconds behind John Botifa.
Yeah, that's quite the gap. I think, Boyson obviously thinking about the fuel save first and foremost, but he would want to be a bit closer to what he considers to be his main rivals. Remember, Boyson was the pole sitter for the GT class, so he's quite a long way off where he'd like to be as our prototype leaders start to make their way through this pack for the second time round. Marcus Deck has got a nice 2.6 second lead over Graham Sanders in the prototype class. You see there's slight difference in line through the chicane as well. Look how much the GTs are attacking that curb, but the prototypes are giving it a nice wide berth. Really unsettles them.
Yeah, in a prototype, I'd definitely avoid getting my wheels over the orange sausage. Got to be careful eating an orange sausage. You might get an upset tum.
Yeah, just about.
I had to throw out some mouldy bread the other day. It's just too humid in Brisbane. My bread went mouldy.
My condolences.
Yeah, it wasn't expensive bread. It wasn't great bread either. I'm not so sad. And I had more, so my breakfast was uninhibited by this problem, but I felt first world wasteful throwing out 2 slices of bread that were a bit mouldy.
Well, if it ain't good for you, it ain't good for you. As Hayden Gober and Jack Anderek starting to close up here. Gober was held up in a Ascari by this GT car, and Anderek has the run on him down the straight up to Parabolica. The size difference between the cars can be a little misleading there. I thought that was surely going to be a crash, but Anderek going for the move at Parabolica and back onto the podium.
Quick change of lanes on the Autostrada. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Oh, Gober's going to come back at him here, though. Big draft down the front stretch, and they've got GT traffic just up ahead here. Nick McLaughlin in the Genesis BMW. Hard on the brakes. Jack Anderek is going to win the fight into the braking zone. Bit later, and on the racing line. Let's see how they go here, making their way past this BMW. McLaughlin's going to stay wide and let them go into Curva Grande. But the battle will continue for that final position on the podium in the prototype class. The rest of our prototype field are quite spread out at the moment. Andrew Berry, of course, has already come into the pits, so he's quite a long way off, but Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders, the gap between them is now out to about 3.8, 3.9 seconds.
Yeah, Sanders was really hanging in there for a bit, but now Deck has just managed to start stretching that gap out a little further. Means the action is all across GT.
Yes, indeed. Maxime Detilly still locked in this fight with Corey McLemore and Carter Hutchison. And that Lamborghini behind is starting to look quite pacey on the run up to Parabolica. Hard in for Carter Hutchison. He loses a little bit of momentum in the middle of the corner and sticking to the right. Is he going for the pits? I think he is. There he goes. In comes Carter Hutchison. And looks like he's the only one to go for the pits so far on this lap. So we're going to get a sense as to what a pit stop is like in this GT class as a prototype is following him in. That's Jason Gotter in 5th place. So there might be a change of position there with him versus Andrew Berry. We will wait and see. Hutchison, though, already at a standstill in the pits. Having been stopped for 19 seconds now. Getting ready to go. He is away. So that's a 22.3 second stop there for Carter Hutchison.
Definitely on the shorter side and earlier. So I think he's still going to have quite a significant pit stop later in the race for Hutchison. I was thinking about the tyres in a 90-minute race, which, of course, for the prototypes and the GTs is entirely achievable to just put fuel in the car in a 90-minute race. Especially the weather is just perfect, I think, today. 32 on track, 28 in the air, partly cloudy. So that's not super grippy, super speed, but it's not melting the tyres off the cars. They're not going to be sliding around too much. And I don't think in either class they're going to be super worried about if their tyres get to the end. There's definitely be some advantage to not pushing them too hard at the start and having plenty left after 90 minutes, but it's not to the point where anyone's really going to be considering a tyre change.
Yes, indeed, as John Botifer and Bo Rigger, as well as Tristan Iglesias, our former GT leader, have all come into the pits now as the pit stop cycle begins in earnest for our GTs. I will say as well, David, I think the nature of the track in general... Oh no, Rigger's overshot his pit box there. It's going to cost him a valuable second or so, I reckon. But Monza doesn't strike me as a high tyre wear circuit in general, because you're spending most of your time going in a straight line, and the only real big high-load corners are Ascari right here and Parabolica at the end of the lap. Everywhere else, you're going a little bit slower. You're obviously going to be taking a bit more tread off your tyres in the heavy braking zones, but I don't think it's as heavy for tyre wear as compared to something like, say, Suzuka.
I think when you're thinking about the tyres, you're mainly worried about the traction out of the two slow chicanes. As the slight fumble in the pit stop, it's actually really going to cost Bo Rigger, because he could have been well ahead of these guys, not needing to worry about this on his outlap.
Yeah, certainly. Carter Hutchison there, almost getting into the back of the Geodesic Ferrari. Anthony Rossomano, meanwhile, coming out of the pit lane, 25.7 second stop. And it seems like pit stop times are pretty even through our GT class so far. Most of them going for the same strategy. Bo Rigger has the shortest pit stop of our GTs at the moment, just 20.1 seconds. The next quickest is 22.3 seconds from Carter Hutchison, but most of the GT pit stops so far have been in the realm of 25 to 26 seconds as our lead pack comes in, and Johan Boysen inherits the lead of the race. And what a surprise there, our director says, as, well, he doesn't have to fuel save anymore, but it's certainly given him a huge benefit over the rest of the field.
Yeah, I had my shocked Pikachu face ready for him to keep going. Everyone else has either pitted or is on the lane right now.
Maxime Detilly getting a little impatient. I heard him revving up the car in the pit lane. He's going to have to be stopped for a bit longer, and Macklemore has completely gone past him. Detilly only just gets going ahead of Zach Plummer, so that's quite a bit of time lost there for Maxime Detilly. Marcus Deck, our prototype leader now, is in the pit lane.
Graham Sanders likewise from second place. So there they are. Probably going to go all the way down the pit lane to find their pit stalls, because the 6 prototypes are obviously the fastest cars. They get the first 6 pit stalls after qualifying.
They do indeed. So, Tristan Iglesias in the effective race lead for GTs, quite a ways ahead of John Botifer and Bo Rigger, who have made that slight jump up the field. Corey Macklemore, meanwhile, back there in 6th overall in GT, with Detilly having lost a couple of seconds in the pit stop cycle. John Sedlak, meanwhile, a driver we haven't focused too much on, has worked himself up into the top 10 in GT. Marcus Deck manages to win the prototype race out of pit lane and remain in the lead of the race. Graham Sanders only just making it out of the pits there. The gap has well and truly extended between them. It's about 6.9 to 7 seconds as GT leader Johan Boysen makes his way in, the final of our GT cars to go for a stop.
The stop time was basically identical between Deck and Sanders, but the lane time I'm seeing is about a second longer for Sanders. So I don't know if he just wasn't as aggressive or anything like that, or if he missed his stall a little bit, but it does seem like Deck got the pit stop a little better and has managed to extend his lead with that.
Well, Johan Boysen has lost the lead, but has brought about a bit of a routine pit stop there for our GT class. 26.3 seconds is the pit stop time there for Boysen, which is actually one of the longest stops we've seen. Only drivers with longer stops than Boysen were Zach Plummer and Mike Amade with 26.6 seconds each. So Boysen, I think, going for a nice long middle stint here.
I think you can be quite confident he measured it out so that the car was good and properly empty when he got to the end of that stint as well.
Yeah. Starting on just the right fuel load. We know that Johan Boysen is good at that sort of thing. But his focus now is going to be to get some heat back into those tyres and pursue Zach Plummer and Maxime Detilly here. Plummer that's still leading the way in that particular battle, but Detilly has gotten a great exit out of Lesmo 2 as we check in with the gap for our prototype lead. Again, Marcus Deck with a very dominant run, but on the run up to Ascari, Detilly, he showed hints of making a move on Plummer, but elects to stay behind once again. I think he reckons it's time to save a bit of fuel here in the middle stint of the race as well.
It's interesting what the pit stops have done. Iglesias, a 6-second lead. Botifer, Rigger, Hutchison all together. Then the gap to Macklemore. Then the gap to this pack. So how good your pit stop was and where you were in that train of cars from second place back has mattered now after that first pit stop.
It has indeed, and Bo Rigger, by far, with the quickest lane time in the GT class, 46.8 seconds. So he's certainly gotten that down. Maxime Detilly, though, staying behind Zach Plummer into first chicane. Is there going to be hints of a move down into Della Roggia? The way things are going at the moment, I don't think so. I reckon now that we're in the mid-phase of the race, it's just a waiting game between these drivers. Interestingly, Boyson has dropped off these two.
A little bit. He has, yeah. Sign of any damage or anything. He's not going to one-stop it, so there's no reason to save fuel so aggressively as to drop off the pack. But these guys are the ones who I think have done well. They've cut the first pit stop short by a couple seconds. In doing that, they've all jumped clear of all of the rest of the guys. They're motoring around at a good speed. And I think come their second pit stop, they'll be far enough ahead of everyone else.
Oh. Botifer just took a ton of curb there. Sorry to interrupt, David. Way too much curb in the third corner of Ascari. That's completely destroyed his momentum and allowed Bo Rigger to get alongside him, but lifting off early allows Botifer to slip on back ahead, and Carter Hutchison's probably wondering what's going on.
He almost took the Ascari Airlines flight, didn't he?
Yeah.
Sometimes you catch that curb, the third one, a little wrong, and it can get you nose up in the air. I think that's what he did.
Might have resulted in a slight bit of under tray damage to that Lamborghini as well. But Bo Rigger staying behind. And play on between these three. They've got Corey McLemore coming up behind them in that Tortuga BMW. Comparing lap times, well, McLemore faster than all of them. Only a few hundredths faster than Carter Hutchison, but nearly half a second faster than the two Geodesic cars. So keep an eye out for Corey McLemore in the next few laps.
That issue through Ascari did stunt the momentum that I was tracking for these three drivers, wherein they were half a second a lap faster than Plummer, Detilly, and Boyson, and that, and they just kept that up, for the 20 laps of this middle stint. They were going to look very, very handsome by just breaking free by making that first pit stop just a little shorter.
Yeah, it's probably given them all the advantage they need to carry that through to the end of the race. Tristan Iglesias up ahead, though, showing no signs of slowing down. He's going further still, faster still, I should say. A 48.8 second lap that time around. His fastest lap so far has been a 48.391. So all that considered, to still be doing such competitive lap times, full credit to Iglesias. He's trying to consolidate this lead as best he can.
No doubt. Looking good for Iglesias. Looking good for Geo guys on the podium here, though.
And down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's another battle brewing here in Prototype. Remember, Andrew Berry, the first of our prototypes to go for the pits, and that's allowed him to jump up there into third place. But Jack Anderek is in hot pursuit and getting closer and closer down the front stretch here at Monza. Could be a change for position very shortly between these two.
Trying to remember who we saw a short early stop from at Indianapolis.
Yeah. I think it might have been Connor Harrington.
Yeah.
Not too sure. But the short early pit stop does seem to be a good way to go here in the prototypes. It's definitely worked out for Andrew Berry so far. His pit stop was only 18.8 seconds. The other prototypes have done at or around 30-second pit stops. So I'm interested to see what the second stop's going to be like for Andrew Berry. Marcus Deck, though, coming round our GT field once again. Those two Geodesic cars of Botifer and Rigger still holding station in second and third. Closing up quite a lot under braking. Don't want to take too much of that curb, guys, otherwise slow down central is your hometown. Low 1 minute 49s for those three
Look
cars.
at that.
Oh, dearie me.
Those poor traffic cones. Another one of them gets hurt. Nick McLaughlin, I think, has gone a little deep into that first chicane. The best have done it. It is a monster of a braking zone approaching at huge speed to then break down into first gear. So what has he done?
Looks to me like he's just gone deep, decided, no, I'm just going to go straight through. Well, he's kind of ignored the directional arrows there on the bollards. You're really supposed to go around those boards, but whatever. McLaughlin is back out on track and it seems unharmed. Unlike those traffic cones.
Those traffic cones. One of them copped a couple hits. He picks it up on the splitter, and then the front right corner of the car hits it again, sends it into, I'm gonna say it was Zorson Miralez, who then sent that traffic cone for another adventure.
Indeed. Well, Johan Boyson on the back of Maxime Detilly. Detilly's dropped off the back of Zach Plummer as of recent. So now we might be seeing a move here for the Team Tortuga BMW. These guys a bit further back than they would like to be. Remember, Maxime Detilly started in third. Johan Boyson, the pole sitter.
Google Translate says that the Italian for traffic cone is cono di traffico. Sounds
Righto.
believable.
Yes. Very believable. So then, Bo Rigger and Carter Hutchison fighting for third and fourth. We're going to be waiting a little while here before the second round of pit stops come round in the last half hour of this race, but the GT battles are still full on here, as they have ever been. Question on
Anderek
my
got
mind.
around Berry. Berry's back in front of Anderek for third in prototype here.
Oh. Yes, indeed. Side by side on the run up to Ascari. Berry going defensive on the run into the corner, but around the outside, Jack Anderek manages to secure it through the right-hander. Excellent pass there from the Geodesic number 21. But Berry is not done with him here. The draft is incredibly powerful in these prototypes, as you can see. Can Berry go around the outside of Parabolica? Anderek a little bit braver on the brakes. Berry goes a little wide there. Slight oversteer for the number 81. And that's destroyed his momentum ever so slightly, but opening up the steering side by side once again on the start-finish straight here. These guys are costing each other a bit of time. They'll want to sort this out soon and quick sharp. But Jack Anderek, will it be a banzai move under brakes in the first chicane? It shall be. And finally, he clears Andrew Berry. Let's see if he can get away from him here. Looks like he can.
I think Berry's looking a little lower downforce. And potentially Anderek's straight line speed being hurt by the boot on the wall at the Lesmos as well.
Yes, indeed, as here we go. A bit further back, change for position. John Botifer, it looks like a slowdown for him, having to let Carter Hutchison go. So that now makes 2 full send Lamborghinis on the podium. But this battle between... whoa, hang on a minute. Look there at Carter Hutchison. He's had a great turn of pace in these last couple of laps, and now right on the back of Bo Rigger. So this could be potentially a 1-2 for full send racing in those Lamborghinis. We'll stay with side-by-side action for the moment, but we're going to take a very short break here at SimSpeed TV. Do not go away. The action still goes on out on track here in the Geodesic Omologato Championship. You're watching round 5 from Monza.
The fortunes of many will change during the night. But already 12 have dropped out. But it's not so bad when you're the first car through like Paddy Hopko. And here's his main rival, Constantin and Alpha. Standard has been driven flat out from the word go, but it's still got plenty of steam. Deve essere qui. Siamo quasi arrivati? Ancora 1 chilometro.
You're watching the Geodesic Omologato Championship, round 5 from Monza. The watch we're highlighting this round is, of course, the Monza, the black chronograph from Omologato Watches. Now available on omologatowatches.com. Water resistant up to 10 atmospheres, finished with sapphire glass, clear dials, and a stopwatch function included with the watch, and only 500 of them available worldwide. So if you're interested in grabbing one of these to change up your style, bring a bit of that Monza passion into your life, go to omologatowatches.com, and remember you can use the code SPEED2021 at checkout and you'll receive a free silicone wristband. So, the racing continues here at Monza. If you're just joining us, I'm Reece Gardner, and it's David Haynes alongside me in the commentary box. And David, this GT battle continuing to go on here. Carter Hutchison has managed to get past Bo Rigger, and that puts both Geodesic cars outside the top 2 at the moment. So, it's a pretty good day so far for full send racing.
Yeah, and very soon we're going to have to start sort of counting backwards on who took how much fuel at the first stop, because a lot of cars just brimmed the tank at their first pit stop, and there's a couple that didn't, and that's these 2 here, Hutchison and Rigger. But Hutchison still took more fuel than Rigger, who didn't take quite as much as John Botifer, to the tune of about 4 seconds. Botifer is definitely still within 4 seconds of Rigger.
Certainly is, so there could be quite a bit of shuffling at the final pit stop here in the GT class, as it is awkward times for the prototypes coming through the Lesmo complex. Hayden Gober and Jason Gott are the last 2 running cars in our prototype field, making their way through nice and cleanly nonetheless.
I'm subtracting where they are on track from how much fuel they've still got to take, and I think by that kind of adjusted numbers, Corey McLemore is net second. He's there in the BMW, right in with these guys, and he's got 4 more seconds of fuel than Hutchison, 6 more seconds of fuel than Rigger, 2 seconds more fuel than John Botifer, and he's right in touching distance with him. We're not like, oh yeah, he's got, a second less fuel we think to take. I think he's going to have a 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 second shorter pit stop than a bunch of these guys in front of him, and he's right with them.
Yeah, indeed he is. Corey McLemore might be the surprise of the night here in the GT class. Of course, he's right on the back of John Botifer now at the end of this train, as Carter Hutchison tries his best to eke out a gap here over Bo Rigger. There is the battle between Macklemore and Botifer. Now, wondering if there's just a slight bit more fuel saving going on there for Macklemore. I think if he's that far back, then he can afford to lift off the throttle just a little bit earlier. And of course, he still has that second pit stop to come round.
That's where I'm getting these numbers from, is... Sure, his first pit stop was... Let's compare him to Hutchison, because that's the furthest up the road I think he's gonna get. Iglesias is ahead and clear, sort of out of the equation on this one. Macklemore took 4 seconds more fuel than Hutchison, and he's 3 seconds behind. But we've known that they're very good at fuel saving in these BMWs. He's been riding around most of this stint with at least a little bit of a slipstream as well. And I can imagine that by the time we get to that final pit stop, Macklemore's going to be more than 4 seconds better on fuel than Hutchison is in second.
Yes, indeed. So Corey Macklemore might spoil the full send racing party up there in the top 2 positions, as that's Andrew Berry back in the pits then for his second pit stop. Remember, Berry was the first of all our prototype runners to take a pit stop. As the gap between first and second in prototype has gone from 9 seconds to 6.5, so something's happened to Marcus Deck. I think he might have faced off against a big run of traffic in an awkward spot on the circuit. You can see he's now ahead of this small pack of GTs. Maybe if he came up on them through the Della Roggia to Lesmo section. As Berry comes out of the pits just ahead of Graham Sanders and is going to have to lift off and go a lap down now on second place. But Sanders still making good use of the track around him. Not much fuss for him. Coming up to the Della Roggia chicane. And this will be a nice, easy move up the inside towards Lesmo 1. But if there's a big long line of GTs in that section of the track, if you're in a prototype, you can find yourself just coasting for that entire section of track. Bo Rigger starting to catch back up to Carter Hutchison here. The battle starting to heat up.
Just tried to do some numbers in my head, and you could just hear gears spinning, going nowhere. I was trying to figure out when we're going to see Bo Rigger pit, when he's going to have to, because he only took 20 seconds, 3/4 of a tank. 3/4 of the restricted tank at the pit stop. We went 18-ish on the first stint. He's gone 13 now. So I don't think we're going to see him. I reckon the next 2 laps, Bo Rigger is going to have to pit, and he might be the first of all of these guys to need to pit.
Yeah, undoubtedly. Question is, when is that going to happen? I reckon probably sometime in the next 5-10 minutes. And when we start to get to the 20 or 15 minute to go mark, that's when you're going to see the majority of our GT field come in, I reckon. Unless we have a few stragglers or holdouts want to try and eke out this middle stint as much as they can. Go for a short splash and dash at the end. That's also an option, depending on how much fuel you took in your first pit stop. But Bo Rigger electing to stay behind Carter Hutchison for the most part, trying to save those little bits of extra fuel to make his second pit stop as short as possible.
The way we're going right now, it is going to be all Italian cars on both of our podiums. Dallara have prototype locked out, and we've got Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and here he comes, 14 laps. Okay, for Bo Rigger, and then he's going to fuel this one to get to the end. Can a BMW come and spoil the party?
There are the Germans.
You always get worried when the Germans and Italians work together as well.
Oh,
Oh,
dear.
no.
He did that at the first stop as well. Overshot once again. I mean, he compensated with a short pit stop the first time round, but I don't think that's going to be there to save him this time. Keeping my eye on Bo Rigger in the pits, seeing how long this stop is. It's gone past 20 seconds. Now past 25 seconds. And 26.4 is the time Bo Rigger was stopped in the pits there. So that seems pretty even with what we saw from most of our GT runners on the first pit stop cycle. So working backwards from that, I would expect our later pitters in GT will probably have a pit stop time of around 18 to 22 seconds.
The Italian national anthem is completely hype as well. It's just...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, maybe it's like classical conditioning. I always hear it when there's motor racing, and I love that. So maybe I just got the two wired together in my brain, but I still think it gets you going.
Yeah, certainly does.
The famous second verse of the German national anthem.
Yeah, I think the less we talk about that, the better. There's another car coming into the pits. Quite an opportune time for that to happen. It's Graham Sanders in second place in prototype at the moment. One of the first, as he's followed in by Maxime de Tilly, who, as we saw, was fighting in the lower reaches of the top 10 in GT. So he's one of our first second stoppers in the GT class after, of course, Bo Rigger made his way in just a lap or two ago. That's going to promote John Sedlak back into the top 10 and Aaron Ackles into 8th place. And Graham Sanders is away. He's going to get overtaken there by his Geodesic teammate Jack Anderek. And I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with how Anderek has gone. Yes, he made that mistake out of the first Lesmo as Rossamano comes in. But I think Anderek has done a good job of recovering from that and keeping himself in a competitive position.
Certainly had that great battle back and forth for a bit with Andrew Berry.
I just marvel at how hard they push coming out of Ascari. You can use all of the curb and the AstroTurf on the exit, but the gravel trap is right there. You dip one wheel into it and that's it. This is definitely an old school circuit. Yes, it's got some tarmac runoff, but there's still grass and gravel there to catch you. As the second place, Carter Hutchison, comes into the pit. Now we'll go back down to 4th or 5th, thereabouts. And Carter making up those positions while saving a bit of fuel down the straights. See how he compares with Bo Rigger. Remember, Rigger also overshot his pit box, and Maxime de Tilly not that far behind him now, having just come out of the pits himself. Carter Hutchison on the revs, and away he goes. And for him, that's going to be a 22.5 second stop. So
It's a car out of fuel.
Oh.
Yeah, Amade. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So Amade making his way then into the pits now. He's only just going to make it. That's very lucky there for Mike.
Well, Hutchison is well clear of Rigger. 2 pit stops that weren't perfect for the Ferrari. Sounds familiar. But we've got more on the pit lane. Mike Amade's finally made it, I think.
He has.
And John Sedlak is in there as well. We've got Jason Gotter away.
Gotta say, I do like that
Do
that new livery on the Genesis prototypes. Very nice touch. Oh god, I just realized what you were laughing at. Oh my goodness. Oh, David, why do you do this to me?
I don't know. Your words, not mine.
Oh
sense.
dear, oh dear, oh dear.
Makes sense.
I just walk into stuff like that all the time, man. All the time. But it seems for the time being, no change in the gap between Bo Rigger and... Whoa, hello. That's a pass at Parabolica. One of the BMWs going for it on the Quasar Lamborghini. Aaron Ackles and Orson Mireles, who... Remember, Mireles has to deal with a 10-second penalty after the race. Thanks to that incident early on with Anthony Rossimano. Very close between those two. Can Ackles go for the move back at the first chicane? He's not going to go for it this time round. He knows that the move is done and it makes no sense fighting it completely right away. Also find it interesting that the Quasar Lamborghini's gone for the white rims there. Certainly stands out.
I don't hate it. I don't hate
either. Yeah, I think white rims get too much stick.
You remember, what, early 2000s maybe? A lot of cars in supercars had those like white 5-spoke rims.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about all I had to say about that.
Okay, well, it certainly brings back memories of that time, and I think the white rims work pretty well there with the Quasar Sim Racing livery.
And I can picture them with a red Holden Racing Team VT Commodore. Marlo's doing a good job though to get on with this one. Iglesias in the lane for his second stop, so from the lead. Botifer, Macklemore, and Plummer continuing as well there, as well as Johan Boyson. So 19.8 seconds, and Iglesias is back in it.
Tell you what, so far, well, there we go. Aaron Ackles pulling out of that battle with Orson Mireles. That's going to be Carter Hutchison and Nick McLaughlin and Bo Rigger going by him there on the front straight. Sir John Botifer inheriting the lead of GT now. And comparing pit stop times, Iglesias with the second quickest pit stop so far. Or the third quickest, sorry, in GT. John Sedlak, 18.9 seconds. Maxime Detilly, only 17.5 seconds stopped in the pits. So I think Detilly's pretty confident on his McLaren lasting the distance. Remember, though, there is a 60% fuel tank restriction, and the McLaren has the biggest fuel tank out of all of the cars.
Detilly, I remember, also went full tank at the first stop, meaning you'd have the shorter second one, whereas there's a couple cars there that needed to play a little bit of catch-up in the second stop, like Bo Rigger, like... who else did I have in my mind for that? Hutchison and... probably John Botifer as well, actually.
Incidentally, who is coming into the pits now. And Corey McLemore is going to re-inherit the lead of GT as a result of that, followed in by Zach Plummer. So now, the only GT cars that have yet to pit are our top two, McLemore and Boyson, along with Orson Mireles and Nick McLaughlin. They are all that is left out there. Boyson coming out of turn 2 as Botifer gets going out of his pit box. Zach Plummer won't be too far behind, we presume. Plummer didn't quite nail the the standing start out of his pit box. But Botifer then back out on track, and also Myrales is where Botifer comes out near. And remember, of course, Myrales, as I just mentioned, not with his second pit stop yet. So he's going for the long run here in the middle stint of the race. Plummer, meanwhile, coming out just ahead of Bo Rigger. Those slight mistakes that Bo made in his pit stops coming back to haunt him now.
Used up a couple too many of the tricks a little too early in the race as well. He looked good after the first stop, but because he sort of pushed some of the pain to the second pit stop by short filling early, which could have been the clever thing to then roll along with some of the faster guys, break away. But then, he lost critical second here, critical second there, with those not hitting the marks cleanly in the box. Okay, Macklemore's in the lane now, and that was where I was pinning my hopes on my future career as a race strategist, that I thought he was in a good position. So let's see how long this stop is for him as well. As Boyson, tick off your bingo card, is still out there.
Indeed, and it looks like Tristan Iglesias is going to come through in the lead here, as Macklemore has only just gotten out of his box. There is the pass for the lead. And Iglesias assuming P1 for Macklemore. That pit stop was 17.7 seconds, so now that is the second quickest pit stop time behind Maxime Detilly. All of that fuel saving that Macklemore and Boyson were doing earlier on in the race is certainly coming back to help them out now. Let's see if Macklemore can get past John Botifer. He has lost out to him in the pit stop cycle, but in terms of pace, I reckon that Macklemore can certainly turn it up in that BMW.
Yeah, when Johan Boyson pits, that's going to be for second and third, that sort of battle there between Botifer and Macklemore. Because then Iglesias will grab the lead back, and comfortably by about 7 seconds or so. Looking at Marcus Deck, he did 22 laps to his first stint. At the end of this lap would be another 22. So I wouldn't be surprised at all to see him in this lap or the next. And that would be his final stop. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised to see it this lap. He's got no reason to really push the fuel saving or anything this time around.
Yeah, he can just go 100%, can Marcus Deck. See if he decides to bring it in this time round. Looks like he's staying clear of pit lane on this particular occasion, so probably expect him in at the end of this lap. Unless he's got some kind of surprise up his sleeve. Johan Boyson, meanwhile, surprise, surprise, has avoided the pits again. Jack Anderek up into second in prototype class now. Graham Sanders has fallen back a fair way, it seems. Having just taken his second pit stop of the night. Anderek and Deck, of course, have yet to come in. But Graham Sanders got slightly held up there on the exit of Ascari by one of the Tortuga BMWs. That's David Browning, who we saw having to request that tow earlier because he got flipped at the first chicane. And it looks like there goes Jack Anderek into the pits. And that's going to allow Graham Sanders back by into second.
Sure does. So we just got to wait on the Marcus Deck pit stop. But I think he's still looking pretty comfortable.
Little box down in the bottom right, you see Johan Boyson, as I believe that's Marcus Deck making his way past him. Anderek is out of the pits now, and Hayden Gober has jumped into the lane as well. Let's see if Boyson goes for it this time. Sticking to the right, in he goes. Pit stop getting taken for Marcus Deck as well, our prototype leader. So We know roughly how prototype is going to work out, but GT certainly going to be the big shake-up with this one. We know that Tristan Iglesias is going to come through to take the lead here by a fair margin, but where is Boyson going to come out?
Well, we'll be hoping for top 5. He's rolling now. He's going to be behind Macklemore for sure. I think Hutchison is definitely going to have him beat here as well. It's about where's Boyson relative to Bo Rigger and Zach Plummer. And the answer is, I think,
way ahead.
Yeah, he just sort of slots into this air gap between Hutchison in 4th and Rigger in 6th. Oh wait, he's cut the chicane.
No.
He's cut the chicane.
Oh no! What on earth is going on there? It looks like Boyson just went for the racing line coming out of pit lane. Went for the very late swerve over to the left, and I think that just unsettled the car under the brakes. He couldn't get slowed down in time. Omologato replay then on board. You'll see Boyson go, here we go, and then on the brakes, no, there's just not enough grip in those front tyres. I'm just going to go over the speed bumps and claim that slowdown. So that's a big shame for Boyson. Any advantage that he would have gained in that pit stop has now been completely negated.
Easily done, though, because you know you're approaching turn 1 at a much different speed than if you'd come flying down the pit straight. You're a bit slower out the pit exit. So you know you can brake deeper. So you go to brake deeper. Sometimes you overcompensate for that and you brake too deep, which is what he's done on the pit exit there. You're using different braking markers, a different braking reference when you're coming out of the pit lane than you did the 55 other laps of the race. So that's caught him out.
That it has. Well,
and
Zach
then
Plummer,
the delta that you have to give up for the slowdown is relative to a fast racing lap. Not basically, you still get stung as if you'd cut the chicane at racing speed from the normal racing line as well. It would have cost him quite dearly.
Yeah, it would have cost him even more relatively. So this battle between Zach Plummer and Bo Rigger for 6th and 7th still raging on. There's no sign of Bo Rigger being left alone here, because they got to remember that Maxime Detilly is behind them and still looking to get a leg up on his rivals. The way Detilly has fallen back here is kind of disappointing. I was expecting him to be up there fighting for the lead with the full send Lamborghinis. But for some reason, in the middle of this race, Detilly's just dropped off.
I think if we assume that there was damage aerodynamically, he was driving around it when he was in the pack, but once he got all on his lonesome, then the extra fuel burn hurts. It shows basically the flaws get exposed when he's no longer running around in the pack with everyone else.
Well, I think Detilly's goal then would be to get into the draft of Zach Plummer and try and get some of that pace back, help him to drive around those problems with his car again. But I don't know. I'm looking at Detilly, and seems like his damage is not as severe as it was before he came into the pits.
I'm looking at Detilly. He's got 35 Twitch followers, viewers live right now. I don't think I'm learning anything else from this, though.
Well, hello to Detilly's Twitch chat, then.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Come over here and have a look at what it's like from the outside of the McLaren. David Browning bringing it back into the pits for his 3rd time in this race. He's already had to make a trip back with a tow. But at the very least, Browning is not going to be the last classified GT car because Mike Imade has retired from this one. Browning's going to elect to take tyres in this pit stop as we focus once again on our two leaders. Marcus Deck on the right, Tristan Iglesias on the left. I think both of these guys have put in star performances today. Marcus Deck showing why he was so dominant in the early rounds of the season, and Tristan Iglesias finally breaking through here for a lead in Dakota Fripp's absence.
Make 3 different winners in GT then, wouldn't it? With
Yes.
Kostovic getting to the top step last time. He's not present. But Iglesias could be the one. And Tristan Iglesias looked good at Indianapolis as well. It just ended up being Kostovic's day on that occasion.
Either way, it does look like Full Send is going to be one of those GT teams competing for the title. Dakota Fripp, of course, running only in a single car team in this series. So with the results he's been getting, certainly looking good for a team's championship, but Full Send with more cars out there. Nick McLaughlin and John Sedlak. Once again, that newer Genesis livery with the green lines looking very nice, especially when put up against the late Apex Racing livery there. And that's going to be a draft for John Sedlak. Looks like that's Andrew Berry just up ahead of them. No, that's Jason Gotter just up ahead of them. Andrew Berry currently in the pits, and
For a while now as well.
for a
his
while.
Third stop, so they parked it, or he's had a problem somewhere.
Well, he drove the car into the pits, so not too sure what's going on there. Some kind of a problem. Maybe a hardware issue. Maybe he's been called away.
I'm hearing the radio from him just then, and he said there was he was potentially getting shown a meatball flag for mechanical damage, but he wasn't sure where it had come from. So a little bit of phantom damage, or he's just nicked one of the sausage curbs in the wrong way, and unfortunate. That's pretty close to just a mechanical failure, a mechanical problem. Something's damaged on the car, but not from him, hitting something or going into the wall. He's just gotten unlucky with one of the curbs, I'd have to imagine.
Yeah, maybe one of the curbs at a... Oh, I think I've just seen it. I've just seen what happened to him. He took the final left-hander at Ascari a bit too tight, and that sent the car airborne. So very heavy hit with the ground. I think that might be what's done it for him.
Marcus Deck is leading for prototypes on track, and Tristan Iglesias is leading for GT on track. But Graham Sanders is leading the Twitch competition at the moment. 64 viewers for him. Beats 34 for Jack Anderek. Plays 27 for Maxime Detilly at the moment.
So it's dominance from Graham Sanders, almost double the viewers of the next, well, not fastest, most popular. No, that sounds a bit too bullyish, but
Most
there we go.
streamed. Yeah, I see
Boom.
that on the right-hand side there, yep. And you recall we
hit.
saw one of the GTs do something similar where there's the fast line, and then you cut a little bit more. Maybe you have a wiggle at the second apex of Ascari, and you end up going straight across that sausage curb, and it tries to turn you into an aircraft.
Does indeed. It was John Botifer, actually, who was the car in question. Is oh no, that's one of the Tortuga BMWs going for a stop there at the first chicane. Who is that? That's David Browning. who's been having a couple of issues there since getting back out on track. It looks like this is just going to be a case of outbraking himself into the first chicane. And
again, scuttling the Cono di Traffico.
and actually obeying the direction boards this time. Good stuff, David. The gap for the lead in GT, I've been hearing hints that it might be closing, but I'm not too sure. After that pit stop, 5 point. Oh, looks like the gap is decreasing ever so slightly down the straights. Tristan Iglesias' last lap was 1 minute 48.9. John Botifer, another 1 minute 48.9, but I think about half a tenth faster on the last lap was John Botifer, so starting to come back now at Tristan. But I think it might be too little too late, considering there's only 4 minutes and 40 seconds left.
Yeah, 3 or 4 more laps, not sure which for the GT cars, but not a whole lot. It's 3 if Marcus Deck catches them, it's 4 if he doesn't.
Andrew Berry still at a standstill in pit lane. Meanwhile, for Action Sim Sport, I think his night is done. Just hearing from the director that he brought it out of the pits and then came straight back in again, so he's obviously not happy with his car at the moment. Goodness me. I think there's a good opportunity for a slow-mo here, Jay, if you want to go for it. Tristan Iglesias, having just come through Variante della Roggia, took a very big curb hit, and he was quite airborne on his right-hand side, showing just how hard they are pushing. I think Iglesias is aware that John Botifer is starting to catch him up and wants to just eke out a little bit more pace before the end of this one. But for third and fourth, Corey McLemore and Carter Hutchison. Hutchison still wants to make it 2 full send Lamborghinis on the podium here, with McLemore flying the flag now for Team Tortuga, with Johan Boyson a bit too far behind to have any effect on this battle.
Looks like McLemore trying to hold on for third in the way that battle is shaping up. Again, I said I thought the pit strategy was good from McLemore. But now it's just a sprint and a dash to the end. And your wish is Jay's command, Reese.
Hooray! I am listened to. Wonderful. But the second curb here is very harsh, and it's one of those places on this circuit where a lot of time can be gained or lost. It's also one of the places where the car can get the most unsettled. Hits that sausage curb on the right-hand side, and check that out. Completely off the ground, and that reminds me of the kind of slow-mos that we see from our homegrown touring car series, David. Love seeing that. And he's incidentally coming through exactly the same corner now, and boom, again, up on 2 wheels.
Pull one out
very
for
comfortable.
the first chicane at Adelaide.
Yes.
What
and
have you
got? Sorry, go on, David.
What have you got to pour out for Adelaide? Pour out a West End?
Yeah, I'm not sure, eh?
You've got your Emu Export or whatever is you guys out west, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay, then it's West End.
Cool. All right. I'm not too well versed in my my South Australian beers.
They're really more about their wines in that region, I think.
Yeah, true. Well, yeah, Perth is kind of like that as well. We have our own wine region here too, but the craft beer industry's been going off in the last few years. Wondering if any of our viewers in America watching this series have tried some Australian craft beers. If you have, let us know what you think.
A lot of Gauge Roads or whatever it is out there, but anyway.
Yummy. Love Gauge Roads. But Tristan Iglesias coming across the line to start what should be his second last lap Marcus Deck.
I think Marcus Deck is far enough back that it is going to be 2 more for Iglesias, because this is going to be the start of the final lap for Marcus Deck.
True that. And I mean, it's back to business as usual, I think, for Marcus Deck. What can we say about him that we haven't already said? He is by far the fastest driver in the prototype class here, and he's done everything that he's needed to do to stay in that lead. He's kept the car clean. He's kept it clean in traffic. And he's maintained good average pace, nailed the pit stops, etc., etc. Just another very good drive.
Really kept his head, I think, in the opening stint where he was going back and forth with Graham Sanders and they were slipstreaming off each other. And Deck knew from the gap he had in qualifying and etc. that he would... keep saying that word, that he had the sort of the race pace as well on him, and just didn't panic in the first stint, and knew that eventually he'd be able to break the slipstream through the pit stops or something, and then he'd get away and the race was his. He just trusted that Monza was going to be Monza for the first stint, and eventually he'd find his clean air, find the way to demonstrate his pace and get this win that he clearly deserves.
Indeed, so only one straight left then for Marcus Deck. Tristan Iglesias is going to come out of the final corner to get the white flag for himself. But Marcus Deck into Parabolica for the final time. Another dominant win here in the prototype class by over 11 seconds from Graham D. Sanders and Jack Anderek. Marcus Deck is your race winner, and we can expect that he'll be on his way back into that championship lead pretty soon. Graham Sanders, meanwhile, making his way through to take second. Jack Anderek is going to join him on the podium. 2 Alpine Stars Geodesic Racing cars on the podium here tonight in prototype. Corey McLemore and Carter Hutchison still have yet to be decided here.
No, they've crossed the line in third.
No, they've
fourth.
crossed the line behind Deck. Sorry.
Yeah, Iglesias and Botifer have ended up on the other side of the leader, so they've got to do one more lap. And yeah, Botifer's still hunting him. If Iglesias is short on fuel, which I don't think he is, Botifer could still put the pressure on. But everyone from third on back has been locked in by being a lap down off the leader. McLemore is guaranteed to stand on the podium. Just Iglesias and Botifer have got to do a little bit of a lap of honor here to make it formal.
Indeed. It's only in sports car racing can you potentially see the third spot on a podium decided before the second and first ones. But talking about Tristan Iglesias, he's been knocking on the door of victory basically all season. He knows that he's got it in him to fight for the championship, and yes, Dakota Fripp has been absent tonight, but I don't think that should take anything away from this victory for Tristan. He managed to put his car where he needed it to be, starting there in second place, and took advantage of the pit stop foibles of everyone around him coming home to take a very well-deserved victory in GT. And I think John Botifer is going to be very happy with second place. It is a Lamborghini 1-2.
Yeah, and Corey McLemore did, of course, get that third place in the BMW to just stop Italian manufacturers absolutely locking out every podium position in both classes.
Yeah, I reckon Carter Hutchison would have liked a couple more seconds there to make it an all-Lambo podium. But I think we should go through then our unofficial results here at Monza. Our prototype class was sorted out in Marcus Deck's favour, taking the win by 11.3 seconds from Graham Sanders. Jack Anderek coming home almost a minute behind, but still a very good podium for Jack Anderek considering the damage that he got earlier in the race. Hayden Gober and Jason Goddard are going to come across the line in 4th and 5th, with Andrew Berry 4 laps down, but I think he is still going to be classified for points, which is fortunate for him. Moving on over into the GT class, meanwhile. Let you take this one, David.
Yeah.
There we are. And the timing screen does get a little confused for the GT class based on where the prototypes were, but no confusion. Our winner, Tristan Iglesias, ahead of John Botifer and Corey McLemore in third. Carter Hutchison for fourth. Johan Boyson in fifth. And then Bo Rigger, Zach Plummer, Maxime Zatilli. Orson Meireles crossed the line in ninth. And that is before race control apply 10 seconds post-race. I'm not sure how far up the road he was from Aaron Ackles, who crossed the line in 10th. And then we look a little further back to the remainder of the GT field, where 11th was Nick McLaughlin, then John Sedlak and Anthony Rossimano. All of those cars actually on the lead lap of their GT leader, just some of them off the separated by a lap by the prototypes. And then David Browning had some problems. Mike Imade ran out of fuel and then I think made himself a retirement. And we didn't see Dakota Fripp or Jordan Fisher grid up or take the start.
Yeah, so that's going to be a big dent in Dakota Fripp's championship campaign. But of course, you might use that as a drop round towards the end of this championship. Well, we're going to move forward a bit here because driver interviews are going to come round. Graham Sanders, I reckon, the first driver that we're going to speak to. Of course, Marcus Deck, it's a bit late for him in Germany, so probably not able to come for an interview with us. But Graham, second place for you. Fantastic result, all things considered, and 2 geodesic cars on the podium. That was a pretty good race for you.
Yes, definitely. I will take P2 any day. Marcus is just really quick. I got pretty lucky last round that he wasn't there and I got the win. But no, this week he dominated the race, and yes, it was awesome to see Jack on the podium as well. It's his first race this season. Actually, he's been kind of taking a hiatus, so he's just got back to sim racing and gets a podium first time out. So I'm really proud of him.
Certainly. What was the strategy like for you guys in the prototypes? Because we did see a little bit of shuffling, and you and Marcus Deck were pretty close there at the start, but ultimately it seems that it was the second pit stop that defined everything.
Yeah, well, the strategy originally, knowing that the first few rounds were very possible, or were possible with the one stop. I wasn't super sure about today. I was pretty certain it was going to be a 2-stop. So my strategy out of the gate was just try and save as much as I could. So I was behind Marcus majority of the I'd say the first half hour. And then once we caught up to traffic, he just got really lucky with the back markers, and it was over then. He just pulled away, and yeah.
Well, nonetheless, it's quite the good result for you, and I'm sure that your Twitch chat is happy. Hello, Graham's chat. According to David Haynes, you are the winner of the Twitch Viewers Championship for this round, Graham.
Wow, that's amazing. That's awesome.
So hello to everyone tuning in to Graham Sanders' stream, and it must have been an excellent ride on board, especially with the battling with Marcus Deck in the first half of the race. But one more question before we wrap up with you, Graham. The slowdowns here at Monza, they're always a bit of a threat, and I'm wondering how you went with them, because they're very hard to avoid, especially in this prototype.
Yeah, they are a pretty big problem. To be honest, I didn't have any issues with slowdowns. I think Marcus might have gotten one lap 1 or lap 2.
He did.
He did. Okay, that's what I thought. But yeah, I didn't get any. I think IMSA was at Monza a few weeks ago, so and I was spamming it all week long. So I kind of figured out where all the slowdowns were and what you could get away with and couldn't get away with, and it worked out for me as far as slowdowns go.
Certainly did. Well, from this second spot on the podium, Graham, a good points haul for you tonight. Who do you like to thank for it?
Same as always, everyone at Geodesic, teammates, my Twitch chat for keeping me company. It got pretty lonely there the last half of that race, so it was nice to have them along. And everyone at SimSpeed for the broadcast. It's always a killer broadcast. I always watch it back after every race, so I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
And we appreciate you, Graham. Thanks for joining us here tonight. That is second place in the prototype class, Graham Sanders. Next up, I reckon it's time to go for our GT winner, David. You're stood by with Tristan Iglesias.
Hello. Welcome to the commentary box. Congratulations on a win again, like in the prototype class. In GT, very, very close until we started getting through to some of those pit stops. I mean, surely you think about the slipstream and the draft and everything at Monza here, but what about the fuel consumption?
Yeah, John did a really good job behind me to save fuel on the first stint, because they had like a train of cars going on there, and he saved a lot of fuel. And I got a little bit lucky there, because P2 and P3 were fighting a lot in the first stint, and that gave me a really good gap that paid off in the end, because John had a really insane pace at the end.
Wind the clock back a bit, tell us about qualifying. I saw a couple full send cars running around in formation. Obviously, qualifying in this championship, all of the cars from the class are on track together. So is it a good thing to have a teammate?
Indeed. I got really, really lucky there, because at first I pressed the button to get into the car and then my game crashed, so I could only do 3 laps of qualifying because I had to reload everything. And then Carter decided to help me do a good lap, and thank you so much to him for doing that.
So they put you on the front row, and from there you did the work necessary out on track. We saw a lot, particularly GT cars, because they can get over the curbs more, getting some slowdowns in the first chicane, the second chicane, and of course they've made the off tracks a little more strict around the Lesmos as well. Where was the challenge zones, and did you have any problems?
Indeed. In this particular race, I didn't really have that many problems, because after pushing in the first stint, I had a pretty decent gap. So after that, I just decided to take it a little bit easier, because I knew that people weren't gonna be able to catch me in the end. So just manage the incidents, don't get off tracks, don't get slowdowns, and just take it to the finish line.
Skoda Fripp had been very, very dominant in his Audi. We've seen that the BMWs can be very good on fuel, or maybe that's just a Team Tortuga thing. What's the strength for the Lamborghini? Because it's now gone back-to-back winning in this championship.
The Lamborghini, the good thing about it is pretty much the tires, I think. I think it does a really good job at saving tires towards the end of the race in comparison to the BMW. It really eats a lot of the front tires, and it's really noticeable at the end of the race. Especially John, because he had a really, really good pace at the end. And I thought, like, if we went on for 15 more minutes or something, he would have cut me probably.
Interesting. Well, Lamborghini goes back-to-back. Full Send Racing goes back-to-back. Congratulations. Who would you like to thank?
Thank you so much. And I would like to shout out my whole team, Frozen Speed, Full Send Racing. These guys are amazing, and thank you for everything. And and a special thanks to Carter as well for doing those team tactics and qualifying. Really helped a lot. And shoutouts to Spencer as well, because he had to miss this race because of some real life commitments, and and thank you to you guys for the amazing broadcast, and thank you Geodesic as well for the championship.
You're more than welcome. I hope we see you again in 2 weeks' time.
You sure will. Thank you.
That was Tristan Iglesias there, winner in your GT class. And my goodness, next up we have, on his return, Jack Anderek grabbing a podium. Hello, Jack. Congratulations on the third place, but it wasn't entirely plain sailing for you with that incident coming out of Lesmo 2.
Yeah, well, first off, thanks for the welcome back. It's really good to be back and Thanks for the broadcast and all you guys do. It was, it was unfortunate because my plan really was to. I knew I wasn't really quick enough to be with Graham and Marcus, especially because I didn't get the best start. So I was trying just to sit back and really just avoid the off tracks in hopes that maybe one of them would get that. And yeah, I just clipped the grass going into Lesmo 2, and yeah, fortunately there wasn't damage, but I had some good battles with Hayden, and I believe it was Andrew. I think it was. We went side by side through like Lesmo 1, 2, and I think Ascari. It was just really, really good racing as well. So it was just awesome.
Yeah, certainly. The battling with Gotta and Berry. So let's clarify that you didn't get damage from tapping the wall out of Lesmo 2. We were thinking that the way that those guys were catching you up on the straights was due to some damage, but were you just running a little higher downforce?
I think so. It's funny you say that because I was having a discussion with Graham before the race about setups, and he was saying to make this change, which would give us a little bit less top speed, but more cornering. And so I think that might have played a big part of it. But yeah, I can confirm there was no damage. I was really surprised by that. I just, the slipstream is just so strong here. So it just, it makes any car look like they have damage when someone's, 5/10 behind you and will just slingshot by you. So yeah, I got lucky though, for sure.
Certainly did, but you're coming home on the podium, and it's a double podium for Geodesic Racing, so an excellent result for you and an excellent result for the team too.
Yeah, I'm really, really, thankful, and yeah, shout out, of course, to Geodesic and Graham for getting me back into this as well. It's awesome to be back, and I'm looking forward to the next round. And yeah, once again, thank you guys for all the broadcast work and whatnot. It really is awesome to go back and watch the broadcasts and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, thank you guys.
And thank you, Jack and Derek. Third place in Prototype. We've only got a couple more driver interviews to go. The next one we're going to go for David standing by with the other Geodesic car on the podium here tonight, John Botifer in the Lamborghini.
Yeah, well done on a podium. We were just talking to Tristan Iglesias, and he says you had some great pace at the end, and you were actually starting to worry him a little bit if the race had kept going on. Do you agree with his assessment that the Lamborghini is pretty good on the tires?
I think that's a good assessment. My pace was good at the end. I was doing a little bit of fuel saving too, just for that extra lap. So, but yeah, the tires felt good even at the end.
And we saw you were quite involved in. Well, there was a train of 8 cars for second place for quite a long early stretch of the race. When you're in that pack, what are you thinking to give yourself an edge to break clear and get the second place, not the first place that it says on the graphics at the moment for some reason? Second place for John Botifer.
Yeah. Main thing is avoid a slowdown, which I didn't do. So I had to battle back through the pack a little bit. I think the main thing is just for me, it was getting a good run out of Ascari and drafting down to Parabolica and making a move there. And then also, if I'm too far back, I just tried to fuel save as much as possible to shorten the stops. So.
Obviously, you got a couple teammates in the class as well. We saw you racing around Bo Rigger for a bit as well. Any information during the race that you're able to share with them, bounce ideas off them, for example?
Do try and strategize a little bit, but obviously as the race plays out, those things change. It worked out after the first pit stop where he short fueled and I full fueled, and he ended up on my tail, so he was able to fuel save a little bit behind me, and then I made another mistake and got another slowdown. So, but yeah, you definitely try and use your teammates as much as possible, especially at a track like this where fuel and draft are a big factor.
Congrats on second place. Good result that really made the leader have to keep working right until the end. So congratulations, and the floor is yours if you need to thank anyone.
Yeah, thanks. I'd like to thank everyone at Geodesic. Great group of guys. I have a lot of fun racing with them. Alpine Stars, GoPro, Omologato for putting on the championship. So thanks, everyone.
There we go.
That's John Botifer there, second place in GT, and our final driver interview of the night, third place in GT. Team Tortuga's Corey McLemore. Welcome, Corey. Congratulations on the third place. It was certainly a tough race there for just off the podium in GT. You really had to work for that one.
Yeah, for sure. The last 15 minutes of the race was not comfortable at all. I really had to link some laps together to stay in front of Carter.
And what was the deal with the fuel saving? Because especially at the start of the race, when you were all in that line, I noticed your teammate Johan Boyson was clutching it quite heavily into the braking zones. How much were you on the fuel saving train?
I did not save very much at all. I was behind Tilly there for a good portion of it, and he had a much higher wing setting or something. I couldn't stay behind him on the straight, so I had to get in front of him, and when that was decided, I just needed to push and try to break free. There wasn't really much fuel saving for me.
Well, nonetheless, it seems like the Team Tortuga BMWs were very suited to this track with your teammate Boyson taking pole. The straight line speed of this thing obviously works very well at this track.
Yeah, it's good on the straights, but man, the turns are just aggravating. It's so hard to link the turns together and to hit it correctly each time. It's very aggravating. The practice throughout this week was very frustrating as well. So I'm happy to be able to get the podium for sure.
Well, I think Long Beach, you're considering the higher downforce levels required, is probably going to be a bit of a better track for you guys in the BMW, but it's only a 50-minute race, so it's certainly going to be frenetic. It's going to be hard to pass as well, given that it's a street circuit.
Yeah, that's very true. We'll definitely have to work on qualifying pace, and we'll see what Johan has in his plans for fuel savings.
Yeah, certainly. Wondering what opportunities there are at Long Beach for fuel saving. Either way, before we let you go, Corey, anyone that you'd like to thank from your garage?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, too, for doing the broadcast. Really appreciate it. It's always fun to look back at the broadcast and see what great things you guys have to say about us. Geodesic, of course. It's a great league. And the teammates at Team Tortuga.
That's Corey McLemore there, third place in GT, and that is going to bring to an end proceedings for tonight, or today for us in Australia, David. What a race that was. Certainly the strategy working out very nicely for cars up the front, but Monza, once again, showing that it can be brutal, but Long Beach is going to be even more so.
Yeah, never disappointed to come to Monza. Love it. Great in sports cars. Long Beach, though, yeah, that is something different. A street circuit to keep everyone on their toes and to just ramp up the intensity in the traffic of our multi-class championship as well.
Indeed, you'll be able to catch Long Beach in 2 weeks' time at this very same day and time here on SimSpeed TV. Before we go, we just want to give another huge thanks to Geodesic Racing for putting this whole series together. A big thanks to our series partner Omologato for their support. Once again, if you want to grab the Monza Black chronograph, only 500 of them available, you can use the code SPEED2021 on the Omologato website, and you will get a free silicone wristband. Certainly would like one of those timepieces on my wrist. You've been watching the Geodesic Omologato Championship Round 5 from Monza. Marcus Deck winning in the prototype class and Tristan Iglesias taking victory in GT for Frozen Speed Full Send Racing. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time on the streets of Long Beach, where the walls are close at all times, and that hairpin you see in the background certainly going to cause some drama. We'll see you then.
fantastic. This is GT Racing right now. He's got traction, he's got rhythm, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?